All right, what's going on, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Jaron Ennis gets a first round knockout against Tomas Delorme the other night on Showtime. All right, now, if you guys see my prediction video, I expected the fight to last a little bit longer than that. You know, I gave Delorme 6 rounds. All right, I knew that there was going to be a stoppage, but first round, crazy. So Boots, you know, he threw an overhand right and drops Delorme, drops him hard early in the first round. I think like 2 minutes in or 1 minute in, and then he goes to finish him off, landed some combinations, puts him away, and it's a wrap, right? And now he's shaking the whole welterweight division up. He's basically calling out everybody. I mean, he's been calling out everyone, but you know, he said in the post-fight interview that he wants Spence because he is number 3 at the IBF at this moment, which is the belt, the title that Spence is, one of the titles that Spence is holding right now. All right, so he wants that fight because it's the closest one to him. All right, but he's willing to fight Keith Thurman, Terrence Bud Crawford. You know, he even said that he's willing to fight Butayev, who won against Jamal James on the undercard, all right? But he's been calling out all of the top fighters at welterweight for a while now, you know, and he's just looking for his opportunity. He is sanctioned in all 4 sanctioning bodies, but according to him, he's number 3 at the IBF. I don't know if things are going to move around because of his win the other night, but he's hunting, you know, all of the top fighters down. You know, of course, you got Virgil Ortiz, who's just a little bit ahead of him on those sanctioned bodies. He's pretty much the number 1 guy in 2 of the 4 major sanctioning bodies, and I think he's on. I don't know if he's on all 4, but he's up there as well. But he's a little bit further, right? He's also willing to fight Virgil Ortiz Jr. You know, Virgil Ortiz is targeting the top fighters, and Ennis is targeting him, including the top fighters. All right, so he doesn't care. He's open to pretty much fight anyone. All right, now look, let's talk a little bit more about the fight before we move on. And this is one of the things, and this is me nitpicking because, you know, I mean, the kid is incredible. All right, there's not many holes in his game, but he has to be cautious because I know he relies on his reflexes a lot to slip shots. He has to be a little bit more defensively minded, especially if he continues to move up. All right. There was a point sometime in that exchange that with Tomas Delorme where he caught a big right hand. Now, he ate the punch, but there's going to be a time where if you're fighting a guys like a Boots or I'm sorry, not like Bud, Spence, or even some of the other fighters up there, the top fighters, even if you fight a Butayev, all right, or Virgil Ortiz, you have to be a little bit more mindful because, listen, guys are going to, you know, get caught. All right, you might be winning on points, scoring on points. But some of these guys are going to be looking to counter and land a shot in between the punches, the exchanges. You have to be very careful with that. I seen it with Amir Khan, you know, where he's outboxing guys, and like Danny Garcia knocked him out the same way. Danny was taking a lot of punches, you know. Khan was very fast at the time, one of the fastest in the sport, landing combinations, all right? And what did Danny do? He landed a shot in between the punches. So you got to be careful with that because guys are going to be looking to connect with one big shot and change the pace of the fight. And if you are going to fight, you know, Boots, I keep saying Boots, Bud and Spence are definitely capable of that. But guys like Butayev, who I told you guys, I didn't do a breakdown, but I did bring up the fight. And I said that this is a very dangerous fight for Jamal James. All right, because Vesputin, you know, Vesputin barely won that fight. And it was only because he was juiced up. All right, so they took the win away from Vesputin. But Vesputin boxed very well. And Butayev still, I thought the fight was still pretty debatable. All right. Butayev is a very strong fighter. Yes, he's coming forward, but he can punch. He could definitely punch. And there's guys like that that I think brings more to the table than Tomas Delorme. You know, you saw Butaev's fight with Jamal James on the same card, and you saw Jamal James' performance against Delorme, which was a lot more competitive. All right, so you got to be mindful when you're stepping up against guys like him, guys like Virgil Ortiz, whoever it is he's gonna fight in the near future. He has to be careful, a little bit more mindful of defense. Okay, we know you're credible. We know you can, you can read fighters. You can, you got great reflexes. But there are going to be times you're going to get caught with shots you don't see, or because you become a little bit greedy. All right, you're starting to wing shots, and you're all offensive, and you just forget that you could still get caught. All right. But anyway, I like that he's shaking up the division. He's open to fighting anyone. And look, and when it comes to this, I'm already reading the comments and paying attention to what people are saying about Ennis, calling out Spence, and because he really was directing most of it to Spence. And you know how it goes when it comes to that. Like I've seen this all play out before. I don't think that Boots is going to get the opportunity unless the fights are ordered. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to be ducked. It is what it is. People are not going to be standing in line to face him unless they have to, unless it's a mandatory type of fight. But when I say to this is that the standards are different, because now he's calling out Spence, he's calling out Bud, he's calling out all of these guys. I've seen this before. When Spence was that guy coming up, calling out Keith Thurman, all right, calling out, Porter or whoever the best was at the division, a lot of people felt that guys like Keith Thurman was ducking Spence. Well, you have Boots doing the very same thing now, all right? But Spence, he's looking to unify. Don't know if he's going to get the unification with Ugas, because it seems like the WBA wants him to defend his title against his mandatories. They're trying to clear things up with their mandatories. They are totally against unification at this moment, which kind of sucks, because I think unification and undisputed should trump mandatories, but it doesn't always do it, So he has to deal with his unification, his mandatory at the moment. All right, I want Spence to fight Ugas. I want, Bud to fight the winner of that fight. All right, and maybe they will push for it. All right, but this is what happens when things get drawn out. All right, now you got guys like Virgil Ortiz Jr. You got guys like Boots, who are getting really close to getting their title opportunities, and now the fights that we've been asking for the past 4 or 5 years, they're getting held back now because of these mandatory obligations, But again, listen, the standards are always different. And that was my point here. The standards are different because now people are saying he should fight Ortiz first. All right, listen, in a perfect world when it comes to boxing, I would love a situation or a scenario where Boots fight Virgil Ortiz Jr. All right? But that's not always the route that boxing goes. It doesn't always go that way. The top prospects or the top contenders don't always fight each other first. Some of them get title opportunities before the top 2 contenders fight each other. All right? But I would love for them to fight each other. But since Ortiz is chasing the older guys, which is what he said, he's chasing the older. He's trying to get them out of here first before getting them to a Boots. All right, I'm not mad at that, but I would prefer for him and Boots to fight each other first. But if this guy is coming close in the rankings to fight for a title, of course he's going to go for the title. That only makes sense. Just like, of course, Spence is going to try to unify or get the big money fights first. Same thing with Bud. Of course, he's going to try to unify first. If he can, he'll try to do that first. Sean Porter, I know Virgil Ortiz was number 1, but Sean Porter, to me, was a priority because Sean Porter is a more proven welterweight, and he's still fresh. So These guys on the come up, I would love for them to fight each other. But if they're gonna be chasing and hunting down the Spences and the Buds of the world, then they're doing what they got to do. Keith Thurman's name was called out. I don't even know what room is left for Keith Thurman at this point, because he's not ranked high, and at this point he's gonna be a voluntary. He's not active. He's not ranked high, and it'll be a voluntary fight. And he's not as dangerous as he was. He just isn't. You just got to be real about it. But look, we've seen this play out before, and it's one of those things that happens over and over. Keith Thurman, when he was the boogeyman of the welterweight division, he wanted to fight Tim Bradley. He wanted to fight Floyd and Manny Pacquiao and the guys that were at the top at the time. All right? None of them gave him the opportunity. He had to earn it by beating the top fighters in the sanctioning body that he fought for. Okay? That's just what it is. Floyd retired, never fought Keith Thurman, even though Keith Thurman was the mandatory. He just never fought him. All right? Then came Spence. Spence was putting pressure on Keith, on Danny Garcia, one of those fights. But Spence didn't get those fights. All right, he got a fight with Kell Brook, because he was the one that was mandated to fight him, and he did what he had to do against Kell Brook. And I expect the same to happen with Boots. Boots is not going to get a title opportunity unless he earns his mandatory spot. It is what it is. So he has to keep doing what he has to do, fight whoever he has to fight. I see people talking about promotions and stuff like that. I don't care about the promotions. Get to where you need to go by beating the people to put you in position to get those big fights. All right. Yes, if he was with PBC, it probably would be better because he probably would land the bigger fights quicker. But that's not something that's always the case. I suggest he keeps fighting people that he needs to fight to get moved up on those sanctioning bodies. All right? And that's it. I don't really play favoritism when it comes to promoters and networks. All right? I know a lot of fans do now. I really don't care about that. I just want to see the best to fight the best for real. And I'm not into protecting fighters. I don't think there's nothing wrong with him calling out Spence. Some people already have a problem with that. All right? He's supposed to be doing that. All right? He's supposed to be doing it. Virgil Ortiz is supposed to be doing that. All right? They don't have to fight each other first. Would I like it? Absolutely. But they're still moving in the right direction. I mean, listen, Bud is still dangerous for Virgil Ortiz. And there's a chance that Virgil might get the Spence fight first. He might not even go the Terrence Bud Crawford route. He might get the Spence fight. And that fight makes more sense because Spence and Ortiz are both from Texas. So that could be a huge fight in Dallas Stadium, and they could do that whole thing down there. That would be great. I would love to fly out for a fight, but, most of these fights get canceled first. So I would love, and I'm sure the people of Texas would love that fight. You had the black fighter, you had the Mexican fighters. The Mexicans going to come support Ortiz. The black fans are going to support Spence. In Texas, that would be big for them down there. So maybe Bud doesn't even get Ortiz. All right, maybe Bud is going to maybe he's the guy that's going to have to fight Boots first. If that's the case, he got to do what he got to do. All right, but it doesn't look like we're going to get it undisputed anytime soon. I'm not expecting undisputed. I think that's sunken. Like that's done. The undisputed thing at 147 is a done thing. That's it, because Ugas can't even unify right now. It's just more hold-ups when it comes to unifications. Spence has 2 belts, so there's more obligations with him. All right, and then you got Ugas and the WBA, and they have this whole world super mandatory thing that they got going on. That's a mess, because even if Ugas does beat his mandatory and Stanionis, there's a good chance he might have to fight Butayev next after that before he even can unify. So I have no idea what's going on with that. And then you have Bud, who is fighting Sean Porter, does he fight his #1 mandatory after that, which would be Virgil Ortiz, or is Ortiz going to go the Spence route? Spence doesn't have a fight booked right now. So I have no idea what's going to happen. Let me tell you something. I'm going to say one thing, and I'm going to end this video with this. And I've said this with Spence. I said this with Spence when Spence was coming up. When Spence was coming up, and this is before Kell Brook fought him, I said that Kell Brook should fight him, well, mainly because of the mandatory. But I said when it came to Thurman, when it came to Danny and all of these guys at the 147 division, I told them to fight Spence before he gets good. If they were smart, they would fight him now instead of waiting for him to develop even more. You get what I'm saying? That would have been smart on their part. Because if they did that, they wouldn't have to wait and chase him now, like Keith Thurman, you know, like Sean Porter, like Danny Garcia was. You wouldn't have to wait and chase him while he's a better fighter. Maybe make more money out of it, but he's a better fighter. He's harder to deal with now because he has more experience. You guys, when he was calling you guys out and people were asking for the fight, you should have fought him then. You know, but Keith got injured, and then, you know, you guys waited until he's better. Now he's the money man. Now he's the title holder. Now he's defending his titles against you guys. You know, even when he beat Kell Brook, guys still wasn't in a rush to fight him yet. He had one belt. You know, now that he brings a little bit of money, now these guys are chasing him, hunting him down, trying to get a fight with him. You know, and now he's calling the shots. Same thing with Boots, man. You know, listen, Boots, he thinks he's ready to fight the best. You know, if he's available and if Spence or Bud don't got anything going on, fight him. You know, fight Virgil Ortiz. Do it now. Get it out of the way. Get it while you're younger. Don't wait until you're too old. Fight him now. You know, that's my stance on it. Listen, I like putting everything in full circle because I know people tend to forget what was going on at the time. Again, Thurman was there. He was the boogeyman at one point. He was. Spence was the boogeyman as well. Bud is a boogeyman. He's still a boogeyman in my opinion. All right? But you got the younger guys now that are more like the Thurmans and the Spence at some point. And people's standards are changing now because now it's Virgil Ortiz. Now it's Boots Ennis in position. All right? Anyway, I'm out. I'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure you subscribe, smash that like button as well. Peace.